Hi and welcome back to another session of Manohar's cooking. So today it's going to be a dessert and it's a very easy dessert to make. It's called caramel custard. It comes from the French creme custard and basically it means a soft egg based dish with a light caramel sauce on top. Now not to confuse this with flan. Flan is basically where you have a sponge based cake and on top of that you have a hard caramel syrup or a crust. So let's start off with the caramelizing the sugar. So I've got 5 teaspoons of sugar here. So I light the stove and I place the dish on it. And one thing that you need to remember is that this will take some time, about 3 to 4 minutes roughly, before the entire thing starts melting. So you'll have to wait. Now as you can see, the sugar is starting to melt. It's forming a kind of a jelly thing. You can see that bubble that just popped. You just have to keep rotating this so that it gets evenly distributed, because that's what you want at the end of the day, to have an even spread of the caramel. And this will eventually become a nice thick liquid. Now the thing to remember is that do not heat it too much, because if you heat it too much, the sugarness or the sweet taste will disappear and ends up becoming very bitter, right? So you want it to be a nice light brown, not an overly dark brown. So you can see this color, that is what it should be like at the end of it. So we have to keep on moving it around, and as you can see, it is becoming a little bit like what we used to have in our chemistry labs, are like the fluidity in terms of agar gel or agar gel, like some of our chemistry teachers used to say, or biology teachers used to say. Now you can see it's starting to thin out. Again, give it a twirl. Like I said earlier on, you must make sure that it is evenly distributed. That way you get a nice coloration on top of the custard once it's done. Maybe another 5 to 10 seconds. Because you can still see a lot of sugar grains or sugar crystals that are still around the place. And maybe just a little bit more of browning, and then this will be done. And yeah, so now I'll switch off the stove. This is done. See how fluid it is now. So what I do is I just twirl it around so as to cool it a little bit so that you get an even texture and even distribution of the color. It's more of a honey coloration with brown, and you just leave it there and let it cool. So coming back here, I've got 1.5 cups of warm milk. I've already mixed the 8 spoons of sugar in this, so I'll just give it another mix for the benefit of the camera. And then I'll set this aside. And here I have the pinch of cinnamon. Now, traditionally, if you go in the south of India, when they make this dish, they do not add any of the spices like I mentioned in the options, like cinnamon, cardamom or nutmeg. However, the Portuguese way, especially from old Goa and along the Coromandel coast of India, as well as certain Anglo-Indian families, they tend to add a little spice to this already sweet, creamy dessert. So they either add nutmeg or cardamom, or they add cinnamon. So in this recipe, I'm going to be adding cinnamon. And here I have 1 spoon of vanilla extract or vanilla essence. And here I have my 6 eggs that have already been put in. So I add the vanilla essence into this. And I add the cinnamon powder, and now the fun and games start. We have to whip it up till it's nice and frothy. Alright, so now that this is nice and frothy, I add the mixture of milk and sugar to this. Now, here's a trick for you guys. At this stage, if you don't want to use all of the batter, well, that's entirely up to you. Or what you could do is reduce this proportionately to 2 eggs and a quarter cup of milk. With the same proportions of course, of the cinnamon, nutmeg or cardamom, and reduce the amount of vanilla essence and sugar appropriately. And then you have your basic base for which you can make your French toast, right? So I'm sure you all know how to make French toast, but in case you don't know, I'll just quickly let you know right now. So you've got this vessel with the base of this in it, of the mixture. All you've got to do is on a hot pan that has been seasoned with ghee, just dip the bread in and out a couple of times and place it on the hot tawa and fry it on both sides till it becomes evenly brown, and there you have your French toast or Bombay toast. So coming back to this, we'll give this a whip again. So while it's whipping, you can see the caramel is more or less solidified. This is exactly what we want it to be. Okay, so now you have, this is ready. Now I have used an electric beater so that it's much faster. You also have that springy thingy like, where is that? I mean, you could use this, but that takes too much time and effort and can get very messy. Or you could use this simple egg beater, or you could use a fork. But each of these three is very, very time consuming, so that's why I prefer to use the electric beater. So now that this has been done, I just pour this mixture into that. Right? And then I just using a nice silicone spatula, that way you can take out as much as possible from here. So that is done, and so coming back here, I've got a stove. I mean, obviously this is a stove with the cooker and water, and it's already lit, and I just place this inside there. Please avoid getting burnt from the side. And now all you've got to do is just close it and steam it. Do not put a weight on this. So depending upon how soft you want it, minimum at least 25 minutes it has to steam. And then once this is done, I'll show you the next step. Okay, now that steaming has been done, I cheated. I had steamed this for about 35 minutes because we like it to be nice and soft. The thing to remember is when you're steaming it for whatever duration, you need to ensure that there is sufficient water inside here. Okay, so there is the pudding. It's nicely steamed. Just take it out. You can see it's nice and jelly. So that's when it's really soft. So all you've got to do now is just lay it aside. Do not cover it, because if you cover it, what's going to happen is like a cake. When you make a cake in the oven, right? If you open the oven prematurely, the cake will collapse. I was about to say collapse because that's what we use in the house at times. So let this be and let it come down to room temperature. And once it comes to room temperature, that is when you put it into the refrigerator. And that whole process will take about 3 to 4 hours. So then that part of the flipping of the dessert and everything I will share with you at the evening. And so this whole video will be sent to you in the evening around maybe 6:37. Okay, thanks for watching for now. Okay, so we're back with the caramel custard. Now it is come out of the refrigerator. It's been there for about almost 4 hours. So take a knife and all along the edges, make sure you scrape it so that you're releasing the custard in the pudding. Just go around a couple of times. That should be enough. And now we do the flip. So just take a ordinary stainless steel plate or a melamine plastic plate. That's entirely up to you. I prefer to use a plate that has these raised edges so that nothing spills out. And we flipped it, and there you go. Then of course you've got to scrape out all these extra things, and don't forget to scrape out the caramel.
Can you smell that, Ebony?
I know it looks a little crude, but hey, it's a homemade dish, and it serves its purpose. So this is one of the I think this is the 4th recipe that I've shared with you guys. I think by far this has been the easiest, the least amount of work. So why don't you all try this as dessert and enjoy it. Thank you for watching.